The 1985 World Rally Championship Series began where it left off in 1984, totally dominated by Peugeot. Arie Vatanen stormed through the French Alps to take the opening round, the Monte Carlo rally, held in mainly dry, sunny conditions. Some of the stages did have snow, which gave even more advantage to the four-wheel drive cars. Walter Röhrl finished second in the Audi, and Timo Salonen in his first drive for Peugeot, a splendid third overall. Would anyone seriously challenge the Peugeots in 1985? After all, Vatanen had just won 5 events in a row. Only time would tell. Carl's start in February means the Swedish rally, and temperatures as low as -30 degrees. The Swedish is the only true winter rally in the World Championship Series, and has for many years been the domain of one man, Stig Blomqvist, past winner of the event 7 times. He's up at number 1 in the Audi Quattro Sport, and whilst he's pre-event favourite with the home crowd, he knows that this year his biggest threat will come from Arie Vatanen in the Peugeot 205. Backing up Stig is Hanno Mikkola in another S1 Sport. The controversial vice-president John Bellestri is at the start to have a look at the Swedish rally firsthand. This year the event qualifies for both the Drivers' and Manufacturers' Championships. Leading the 115 crews away at the start of the 2-day event, Stig Blomqvist and Björn Siderberg head off for the first of the forest stages. Try as he might, Blomqvist, who beats the stage record by 11 seconds, still only manages to tie with Arie Vatanen, who sets exactly the same time. Obviously, there is going to be a real battle developing. Timo Salonen is gradually getting to grips with his new drive in the Peugeot, and we're setting up respectable times. Walter Röhrl in another Quattro was surprising many spectators with his performance on the snow. However, having brought a 2-wheel drive Opel into 3rd place in 1982, then perhaps they should have known better. Hanno Mikkola, meanwhile, by his standards, was driving at less than 100%. Some stages surprisingly had little snow on them, and the exposed gravel was ripping studs out, making life very difficult. Per Eklund in his private Quattro was having a persistent engine misfire which slowed his progress, but he was nevertheless fastest of the privateers. Malcolm Wilson was having his first attempt at the rally and was not disgracing himself and lay inside the top 10. Another first-timer was David Llewellyn, who was just inside the top 20. His rally ended quite soon, however, when he went off on stage 6 and took 3 hours to dig himself out of the snowbank. Ingvar Carlsson was the leading 2-wheel drive car in the beautifully turned out Mazda RX-7. Local driver Mats Jonsson always does well, but this year is driving an old down-on-power Ascona 400 and is having to work really hard for his top 10 position. The Audi camp welcomed the new snow on the 2nd day. Hopefully it would cover some of the more exposed stages where they were being soundly beaten by the Peugeots. Leading Group A just was Gunnar Peterson in the Audi 80 Quattro, who was having a real battle with the other team car of Mikael Eriksson. Lars-Erik Torp in the Works Golf GTI was having a cautious drive and was well off the pace. At the head of the field, Vatanen continued to dominate. Try as he might, Blomqvist could do little to narrow the gap. Whilst Walter Röhrl was continuing to impress and held 4th place, ahead of teammate Mikkola, who never looked on form for the entire event. Per Eklund was still leading privateer in his old Quattro in 6th position. Timo Salonen was, despite 1 or 2 anxious moments when he slid off, getting to grips with the 205 and held 3rd place. The unique frozen lake stage near Hagfors, the marshals have the ideal transport, skidoos, a sort of motorised sledge. Timo Salonen has his own brand of motorised sledge, the Peugeot 205 T16, and he flings the little projectile between the banks to record fastest time. He is not threatening Blomqvist, however. It would need the Audi driver to have a major off or mechanical disaster to be caught. For Walter Röhrl, mechanical disaster is just around the corner. His engine blows, bringing to an end a very fine run and lifting Mikkola to 4th overall. Group A was finally resolved in favour of Gunnar Peterson after Eriksson lost time when he went off on the last night while trying just a bit too hard. Malcolm Wilson too succumbed to engine failure whilst holding 9th place. And so the winner of the Swedish rally, and a resounding triumph for Peugeot, was Ivory Coast, who, co-driven by Terry Harriman, drove magnificently. Stig Blomqvist had to settle for 2nd place. Being beaten by a Finn at home is a bitter pill to swallow. Timo Salonen took 3rd place to consolidate the Peugeot domination and leave other teams wondering what they must do to beat the French challenge. And so to Portugal. The 3rd round of the championship is Portugal, an event with a traditional format of short tarmac stages near Estoril, followed by 4 days of very tough gravel stages that take competitors the length and breadth of the country. The main protagonists are once again Peugeot, Audi and Lancia. Peugeot had Vatanen and Salonen in 205 T16s. Audi had Blomqvist and Rowe in Audi Sport Quattros. Whilst Lancia had Mickey Biasion in the semi-works Jolly Club Tow-Tip 037. The Portuguese rally is a hard event by any standards, but making life doubly difficult are the spectators, who turn out in their tens of thousands to line the route. At times they fill the entire road, only jumping aside at the very last minute, and drivers frequently complain of the impossible position they are placed in, having to drive as fast as possible with the thought of hitting one of the suicidal spectators not far from their minds. As crews headed north towards Pavor de Varzim, it was Mickey Biasion who led in the Lancia. Walter Rowe was the leading Audi in 2nd place, determined to mount a strong attack. Now the rally was on to gravel stages. Ivory Vatanen held 3rd place, but with less than 60 seconds covering the first 3, this could soon change. Stig Blomqvist wasn't too far behind either and was secure in 5th position, whilst Werner Grissmann was leading privateer in his Quattro. Illustrating just how bad the spectator problem can be at times was the famous hump on the Fafe stage. Imagine coming over a blind crest at speed and being confronted by this scene. Mickey Biasion throws caution to the wind and really flies. Despite some aggressive driving which earned him a bent front wing, he now lies 2nd to Walter Rowe. Salonen adopts a more cautious approach. He's now the only Peugeot in the rally after Vatanen has retired with rear suspension failure. Blomqvist is trying his best, but is having a frustrating event with constant turbocharger and tyre problems. Leading Portuguese driver was Moutinho in the Renault Turbo, but he was destined to retire on the next leg with camshaft failure. The 1985 Portuguese rally had a final sting in the tail, however. With Walter Rowe leading by over 6 minutes, it was assumed the result was cut and dried. Far from it. On the long Argonil stage, he broke the front differential, then suffered punctures, dropping him to 3rd. and giving Timo Salonen, who had clawed his way past Biasion, a surprising but nevertheless well-deserved win. Mika Biasion probably had the drive of his career to take second place, despite last-minute dramas with broken suspension. Stig Blomqvist had one of his most frustrating rallies for a long time, even right to the end, punctures and turbo problems slowing his progress, and he eventually finished nearly 25 minutes behind the winner. Easter in Kenya means only one thing for the World Championship Rally Circus, the Safari Rally, an event that is a must for Toyota Team Europe, particularly after their win in 1984 against all the odds. Whether they can repeat the performance in 1985 with sleeker turbos is another matter, as the opposition will be much stronger this year. Nevertheless, with last year's winner, the experienced Bjorn Boldegaard in the team, plus the rising young Finnish driver Juha Kankkunen, and the organisational abilities of Henry Litten behind them, they should give a good account of themselves. Ranged against them are teams from Peugeot, Audi, Lancia and Nissan, with the advantage, on paper at least, going to the four-wheel drive cars. The event starts in Nairobi, then runs down by the tighter hills to Mombasa, before looping back 48 hours later to Nairobi. Like Valdegaard, Shekameta is a Safari veteran, and despite not having the advantage of four-wheel drive, is expected to challenge hard in his Nissan 240 RS. Driving well on this opening section is the Lancia 037 of Attilio Bettiger, who waits patiently for his correct time to come up as Ari Vatanen eases past, then roars off in a cloud of dust from the time control. Bettiger's performance on the opening dry section surprised many who did not expect the low-slung racers to do that well. At the Audi service point, it is plain that things are far from well, as reports come over the radios that both Blomqvist and Mikkola had stopped with blown gearboxes. Only a short distance from the start, the Safari had claimed its first victims. Racing through the tighter hills, Ari Vatanen displays the skills that have made him world champion. Avoiding marauding cattle is only one of the many hazards crews face in Africa on this one of the classic open road rallies. By the time crews are heading back into Nairobi after a day and night of hard motoring, Bjorn Valdegaard is in the lead. Young Erwin Weber, new recruit to the Opel team, holds 5th place after an excellent first leg, whilst ahead of him are teammate Aaltonen plus Meta, and with another good performance, Juha Kankkunen in the Toyota Celica. Kankkunen gradually moves up through the field as crews head north for the section around Kakamega and Eldoret. The wily old fox Aaltonen, who has been trying to win in Kenya for 22 years, has slipped into the lead, however, after Valdegaard lost time with electrical problems. Backing him up well was Weber, who had also moved up during this section and was second, only 1 minute ahead of Kankkunen, who is pacing himself well. Shekameta is still there and not too far behind the leaders, playing a waiting game. In the Peugeot camp, it's Ari Vatanen who is upholding honours to hold 5th position. Only 2 Lancias are now left, those of Bettiger and local driver Vic Preston Jr. Alain is already out with a rod through the side of his engine. Bettiger would not make it back to Nairobi, however, at the end of this leg, as his engine also blows. At service in Eldoret, Ari Vatanen, bathed in sweat, gives frantic instructions to mechanics.
You were filming the right next to the cows cave. Are you there? Oh no. You know, cows crossing the road. But you know, that's a perfect sample to beginners, you know, how to brake and avoid at the same time.
Despite holding a top 5 position and looking confident, Ari is destined to retire with head gasket failure, leaving Timo Salonen the lone 205 survivor. Scheckemaker doesn't make it back to Nairobi after going off the road and wrecking his front suspension. For Lancia too, the rally got progressively worse. Vic Preston Jr. eventually retired with electrical failure. Opel, who had led the event for much of the distance, also to come to last-minute dramas. Altonen finally finishing 4th after clutch problems. Weber 5th after head gasket problems. For Toyota, it was a fairy tale ending. Valdegaard had fought his way back to take 2nd place, and Juha Kankkunen and Fred Gallagher took overall honours to make it a splendid 1-2 for Toyota.
Well, like in last 2 years, I'm winner here, and I hope also in this year I taking good result. I win or I am first 3, but that's a nice rally, my car.
Well, you think the 037's got a good chance against the new Peugeot 205 Mark II then?
Yeah, I am sure, that's maybe best rally in Lancia rally, in looking all program in 85, that's maybe last rally also in 37, and I hope he's winning rally also in last rally.
Good.
Marco's optimism is well founded, as the tight, twisty Corsican stages are well suited to the Lancia 037, and Marco is a past winner. Ari Vatanen suffers brake problems on this opening stage and drops time, whilst Jon Ragnotti takes a surprising fastest time to move into the lead with the Renault Turbo. Attilio Bettiger sets a quick time in this opening test, but no one is prepared for the shocking tragedy that's to take place only a few miles further on. Bettiger's Lancia flies off the road, hits a tree, and the popular young Italian is killed instantly. The 32-year-old driver was one of the most well-liked on the international scene. Walter Roll is having a fraught time in the Quattro. A front disc brake has broken, and this, coupled to an engine that sounds far from healthy, signals retirement. Jean Ragnotti continues to lead in the Renault, confounding popular opinion, which thought that either a Peugeot or a Lancia would be in the lead by now. A first-time visitor to Corsica was Billy Coleman, who was coping well with the narrow tarmac stages, some of them not unlike those found in his native island. Ari Vatanen is really trying hard, just catching and squeezing past Bernard Bergouin's Porsche before the finish of the long Special Stage 9. Try as they might, no one can catch the Renault of Ragnotti, who is driving his heart out. Bruno Sebi is trying his best and holds 2nd place in the new Evolution Peugeot with the big rear wing. The Group A lead is in the hands of Yves Loubet and the Alpha, which is also an amazing 4th overall. Ari, who has dropped to 6th after punctures, is fighting back.
The Bettiger's accident overshadows everything else, so really a sad day. And for myself, well, I touched the stone on the inside of the corner and had 2 punctures and lost 27 minutes. We had no 2 spares, and otherwise okay. But anyway, it's punctures little.
After a rest halt in Bastia, crews head back towards Ajaccio on the other side of the island. Ragnotti is still at the head of the pack, with Sebi only just behind him. Ari is trying everything he knows to get back in contention, but perhaps tries too hard and goes off the road and is out of the rally. In 3rd position is Bernard Bergouin, just ahead of teammate Coleman, who has been slowed by gearbox troubles. On the last morning of the rally, rain falls and makes life difficult for everyone. Ragnotti, however, has consolidated his lead with a string of fastest times. Bruno Sebi is safe in 2nd place and gains more World Championship points for Peugeot after Vatanen and Salinen's retirement. Porsche were well pleased with their performance. 3rd went to Bergouin, and 4th, his best ever World Championship result, to a delighted Billy Coleman. Roubaix fell to Loubet, who was 10 minutes ahead of his nearest rival. On the finish ramp back in Ajaccio, in front of a very partisan crowd, it was Ragnotti and co-driver Timonier who received the applause and cheers to give Remo their first World Championship win for many years. In the shadow of the Parthenon, the 1985 Acropolis Rally gets underway. The main protagonists, once again, Peugeot and Audi. Peugeot have, as usual, Vatanen and Salonen in 205 T16s, whilst Audi have Quattro Sports for last year's winner Blomqvist and Walter Roll. For Vatanen, however, the event was to be one of his shortest ever, when his steering failed on the second stage and he was forced out. It is ironic that his shortest rally was some years ago when he retired on the first stage of the Acropolis in his works escort. The cause then, an accident. Walter Roll also gets off to an inauspicious start. By a quirk of fate, his Quattro also breaks its steering, retiring at the end of the first stage. The rally develops into a battle between the two remaining works cars of Blomqvist and Salonen. Blomqvist holds an early lead, flinging the Quattro about to the delight of the many Greek fans. Salonen, however, is in top form and has obviously found a new lease of life now he's joined the Peugeot team. Way behind the two leading protagonists is Shekhar Mehta in a works Nissan 240 RS. The Nissan's reliability, coupled to Mehta's experience, was going to hopefully guarantee a good result. From the Middle East came reigning champion Saeed Al-Hadri in his Rothmans Porsche, who obviously finds the Greek roads rather more testing as he spins. Nevertheless, he lies 7th. Having an absolutely superb run is Ingvar Carlsen in a Mazda RX-7, who is lying in 4th position. Shekhar Mehta has been a long-time supporter of Nissan, and the Japanese marque must be pleased to have such a faithful driver in their team. Al-Hadri continues to soldier on and is now up to 6th and proving his the ability to do well outside the Middle East. Leading Group A is Franz Wittmann in the Golf GTI, head of Jockey Kleint in a similar car. By the time the rally reaches the halfway point, Timo Salonen is in the lead. He has forced his way past the Audi and there's nothing Stig can do about it. Ingvar Carlsen has the two-wheel drive Mazda RX-7 into 3rd place, an amazing performance and one which before the start no one would have predicted. Shekhar Mehta is in 4th position. Niggling problems, including punctures, have dropped him back, but even without this, Carlsen will have still been ahead. The final night of the rally is traditionally a blast through very tough stages in the Peloponnese, just when crews are really tired. The finishing order didn't change though, everyone keeping station. Mehta finishing 4th after another good steady drive in the Nissan. Al-Hadri confounded his critics and delighted the Rothmans team by finishing a strong 6th. Stig Blomqvist made it into 2nd place but could do little to catch a very on-form Timo Salonen, who is obviously the man of the moment in the Peugeot 205 T16. It remains to be seen as the season progresses whether anyone can catch him.
What was the biggest worry?
You know, in car always, because by driving I know that never Blomqvist can catch me. But you know, always the cars.
You've now got a very commanding lead in the championship. How are you going to play the rest of the season?
I do my best, and now of course I try to be world championship.
Well, many congratulations. We hope you make it. Thank you very much.
The World Rally calendar has moved on to July, and the most distant round in the series, New Zealand. Last year's winner, Stig Blomqvist, leads crews away at the start of what is to prove a hard event. Challenging the Audis are a pair of Celikas for Valdegaard and Kankkunen, 2 Peugeot 205s in the hands of Vatanen and the on-form Salonen. Add to this works Nissan, some quick local drivers in Mazda and Audi Quattro, and you have the makings of a good rally.
Current points leader in the 1985 World Championship, driving the 205 Duke.
Like last year, Walter Roll moves into an early lead on an event he loves. Chasing him hard, the two Peugeots of Vatanen and Salonen were giving the New Zealand spectators their first glimpse of the four-wheel drive supercars that currently dominate the sport. In second position, despite a Quattro that pops and bangs, Stig Blomqvist. Shekamater, making a welcome appearance down under, held a top 10 place, but knew he couldn't challenge the four-wheel drive brigade. Leading the two-wheel drive cars was Juha Kankkunen in the Celica, teammate Valdegaard falling by the wayside already with early gearbox failure. The honour for top New Zealand crew was a worthy prize. Despite the advantage of four-wheel drive, Malcolm Stewart was not the leader. Neil Alport is one of the crowd's favourites, and while setting good times is still being headed by Reg Cook's Nissan, who is leading Kiwi. Roll continues to lead as the rally heads south. Chasing him hard is Timo Salonen, and he's now got teammate Vatanen right behind him. Ari having squeezed past Blomqvist over the last few stages before the Rotorua rest halt. During the second leg of the rally near Rotorua, torrential rain fell, further increasing the advantage of the four-wheel drive cars. And indeed Salonen was now into the lead, having caught and passed Roll. Alport is still setting up good times, throwing the Mazda round with abandon, and is now leading New Zealand crew. Malcolm Stewart is gradually getting to grips with the Quattro and chasing Alport hard. The final leg on the run back to Auckland, and Kiwi Inky Tulloch puts his escort off, albeit briefly, willing spectators getting him back on the track again. But not before the Group A Subaru of Possum Bourne has squeezed past. Meanwhile, at the head of the field, the two Peugeots continue to dominate. Salonen firmly in the lead now, and Vatanen into second spot, demoting Roll to third after some blistering stage times. Is in fourth place.
No really team orders, but you know, common sense says that now we will hang on to the positions we have got.
So it's not fin against fin for the last few stages then?
No, because that would be very, very foolish. I'm nearly 2 minutes behind Timo, so if in 3 days, if I haven't managed to catch him, I can't catch him over a few stages.
So have you enjoyed the rally?
Yeah, generally speaking, and it's getting better towards the end.
No problems with your car?
No, not at all. I hope it has a happy end.
The last few miles towards the finish in Auckland, and nothing is troubling Salonen, who is heading for his third win of the season, to consolidate his lead at the head of the championship table. Try as they might, Audi just couldn't get on terms with the Peugeots, and after so many years dominating the sport, they must be wondering what they have to do to get on top again. Whilst not getting top New Zealand crew, that fell to Malcolm Stewart, Reg Cook nevertheless netted 6th place, just squeezing past Inky Tulloch's escort in the closing stages. Jim Donald made it into 9th place. Group A went to Possum Bourne Subaru, who also took a splendid 8th overall. The cheers and champagne in Auckland were reserved for Timo Salonen, the man currently on top form and heading perhaps for a World Championship title. And so to Finland and the Thousand Lakes Rally. Thousand Lakes Rally is the one event every rally driver wants to win, not the least the Finns themselves. Timo Salonen heads the Peugeot Challenge. Ahead of him should have been last year's winner, Ari Vatanen. But Ari had a horrendous accident on the previous round in Argentina and will be out of rallying for many months. Taking his place in the team, Kalle Grundle, who, whilst a capable driver, is not expected to challenge for the lead. Main opposition, of course, is from Audi. Peugeot personnel taking particular interest in the wings and skirts of this latest version of the Quattro. Despite not having four-wheel drive, it's Marco Lane who sprints off into a narrow lead over the opening rain-lashed stages. Timo Salonen is hard on his heels with Blomqvist and Mikkola only seconds behind him. The following morning, and Hanno Mikkola has problems. His car had refused to start. Audi mechanics from his chase car were soon swarming over it, changing plugs and checking electrical circuits. Juha Kankinen throws caution to the wind on the Ruimäki stage, really flying in the overweight and underpowered Celica. Per Eklund was holding a top 10 place in his old Clarion back Quattro, whilst Bjorn Valdegaard seemed to have a new lease of life and was beating his younger teammate on some of the stages. Marco Lane had lost his lead to Timo Salonen. It was only to be expected. Even Marco's skills are not enough to keep him ahead of four-wheel drive cars. Stig is fighting back as only he knows how, and is shortly to catch Marco and take second place. Valdegaard is now the only Toyota left after Kanken breaks his axle. Henry Toivonen is clawing his way up the field after he's off on the first stage, had dropped him right back. The unique stage around the town of Jyväskylä, where Stig uses every bit of the road and the pavement to narrow the gap to Salonen. Hanno too is determined to do well in front of his home crowd, despite suffering from a niggling engine misfire. Per Eklund, by comparison, looks subdued, but then again he doesn't have 500 brake horsepower at his disposal. Kalle Grundle dropped right down the order after he'd gone off right beside Toivonen on stage 1. He's now up to 13th. It's Timo Salonen who's in command, however, setting faster stage times with some superb controlled driving. While spectators in Finland have the added advantage of being able to watch from the water, they won't have the pleasure of Mikkola for much longer. Clouds of smoke heralding imminent engine failure. Kalle Grundle is showing plenty of aggression and has moved up and will finally take 5th place by the finish. Stig is now locked in battle with Salonen. Less than a minute separates them. Valdegaard carries Toyota honours, but knows it's hopeless without four-wheel drive. He finishes 7th. Henry Toivonen takes 4th, albeit a long way back. Valdegaard knows that whilst the safari-type events are within his grasp, the speeds of Finland will always defeat him. Marco Lane is having a superb drive and knows that when the four-wheel drive Delta arrives, the others better look out. In Group A, the main battle was between Mikael Eriksson's Audi 80 Quattro and Lars-Erik Torp's Golf, the decision finally finishing in favour of the Quattro driver by a mere 35 seconds. And so as the last few rain-sodden miles are reeled off, it's Salonen who takes yet another win. Stig Blomqvist had tried his best, but still had to settle for second best, yet again. Marco Lane was well pleased with his performance and knows it will be a different story next year in the Delta S4. Timo's win, his 5th this season, clinched the championship title for him with 3 rounds remaining. The San Remo rally takes place in the mountains behind the town, which gives its name to the event, and in the hills of Tuscany. It is by tradition a fast and furious rally, and one which Italian team Lancia are on a bound to compete in front of their thousands of partisan fans. They have 2 works cars entered for Alain and Toivonen, backed by toe-tip sponsored examples for Biasion and Cerato. Peugeot, meanwhile, have newly crowned world champion Timo Salonen, determined to add another victory to his impressive 1985 tally. Supporting him is Frenchman Bruno Sebi, who finished a strong 2nd in Corsica in his last World Championship outing. Audi have entered only 1 car for Walter Rowe, who loves the rally and has plenty of local fans who remember his performances for the Fiat and Lancia teams in years gone by. Indeed, it is Rowe who slips into an early lead, and one which he is bound to consolidate. Marco is trying his best, but is no match for the 4-wheel drive cars, nor indeed the 2 toe-tip cars who lead him at this stage. Rowe continues to extend his lead, moving steadily ahead with some superb driving. Behind him Salonen, who is not really making an impression on the leading Audi. Marco has moved up and now holds 3rd place, whilst Bruno Sebi has had all sorts of engine problems which have dropped him back. Mickey Biasion is putting in a solid performance.
I'm going maximum speed.
You're still leading?
I'm still leading, yes.
Do you know how much by?
It should be about 38 seconds.
And you're enjoying it? You like this rally, don't you?
Yeah, I like it, yes, but maybe a little bit fast going, but it's quite nice, especially for our car. First time without any problem.
You've now got the measure of the Peugeot Audi with this car.
I don't know. Let's wait to the end of the race.
All the best.
Okay, thank you.
Indeed, Roll moves even further ahead, Audi finally having the sort of rally they enjoyed before the Peugeots arrived on the scene. Salonen and Sebi are trying their best, but Sebi is dropping even further back with engine problems. Biasion lies in 4th place. No major dramas affecting the young Italian. Henry Toivonen continues to give 101%, locked in battle with Biasion. The crowds in Italy are now getting almost as bad as they are in Portugal, and one wonders how long it will be before there's a major disaster. For all, there's no disasters and no problems. Lancia, meanwhile, still have all their cars running. Indeed, the rate of attrition has been very low, which is surprising in view of the speed and the total commitment. Sebi, however, is shortly to retire with a blown engine. Marco is up to 3rd, and Toivonen and Biasion are separated only by seconds, but the Finn is getting inexorably closer. Walter Roll is in a class of his own and is now over 5 minutes ahead of the rest. Salonen perhaps has not tried as hard as he might, knowing he is already world champion. But was it that Roll was driving just that bit quicker anyway? During the last night on the run back to San Remo, Roll holds on to his lead. The winning margin, 6.5 minutes over Timo Salonen. Both the Martini Lancias have narrowed the gap. Toivonen by an incredible 2.5 minutes as it takes fastest time on the last 8 stages, moving into 3rd place ahead of an amazed Marco Alain. Cerato claims 5th place after Biasion loses 13 minutes with distributor failure and drops to 6th. Franz Wittmann wins Group A by 28 minutes after rival Chitty retires his Remo, and fellow Austrian Franz Wittmann is second in class in his well-driven Peugeot GTI. All the applause back on the seafront in San Remo, however, was reserved for a delighted Walter Roll and Christian Geisdorfer, who thoroughly deserved their win for Audi. Abidjan, the capital of the Ivory Coast, a thriving port and trading centre on the west coast of Africa. It is to this part of the world that competitors travel to take part in one of the hardest rounds of the World Championship Series. 4 days of intense competition through mainly jungle terrain that tests man and machine to the limit. One manufacturer to have enjoyed more success than most on this event are Toyota, and for 1985 they have 2 Celica turbos entered for Bjorn Valdegaard and Juha Kankkunen. Whilst the format is similar to the Safari, no one expects them to repeat their amazing 1-2 result achieved earlier in the year. Main opposition will come from Michel Mouton in an Audi Quattro, who makes short work of this particularly muddy stretch, and indeed she has already moved into the lead within 100 kilometres of the start. Behind her, Juha Kankkunen, then teammate Valdegaard, who has been delayed already with a broken brake caliper. The only opposition is likely to come from 2 Works Nissan 240 RSs in the hands of local driver Ambrosino and Kenyan Mike Kirkland. Whilst Ambrosino goes through without any problem, Kirkland is not so lucky. A local driver gets his car stuck in the mud hole, leaving Kirkland no room to get past. Part of the hazards of rallying in Africa, but one which cost him nearly 50 minutes. Locals at the following village don't care about time, however, and they'll stand there until the very last car goes past. Service at Abangaru on the first night, and an anxious-looking Juha Kankkunen prowls the service area as mechanics work hard to repair the ravages of the first 3 hours. Both he and Valdegaard had got past Mouton, but this lengthy service dropped him back to 3rd behind the Audi. As crews head towards a rest halt in Yamoussoukro, Valdegaard cautiously picks his way through the rock-strewn track. He lies in 2nd place, only a minute behind his teammate. Kankkunen has driven superbly during this leg to take back the lead. He has suffered no problems during this section, but ahead lies a precautionary gearbox, prop shaft and axle change. On this type of event, there's no need to tempt fate and risk a major component breaking. The Nissans are posing no real threat. Ambrosino has had gearbox trouble which dropped him back and is not narrowing the gap at all to the Toyotas. Teammate Kirkland is fighting back, however, after his big time loss on day 1, but again is not worrying the leaders as he's so far behind. The main talking point so far, however, was whether Michel Mouton's Audi, which had been having severe engine problems, had been swapped for an identical chase car running further down the field. Every indication was that this was indeed the case. Fortunately, perhaps for everyone concerned, Michel retired before the finish, when her car literally fell to pieces around her and also suffered major electrical problems. Showing the strain of maintaining the pace at the head of the field, Juha Kankkunen sits and waits while mechanics work on his car. Co-driver Fred Gallagher looks more relaxed.
What can you say? Hot? Bumpy? Dusty? I love it.
The long service necessary meant Valdegaard was back into the lead by 3 minutes as crews tackled the stages through the coconut plantations near the coast at San Pedro. Juha was not about to give up, however, and put in some spirited driving during the last night in an effort to catch his teammate. Ambrosino was quite happy to settle for third place. He had never seriously challenged the two Toyotas, so it was perhaps the best he could have achieved anyway. Mike Kirkland had a trouble event, and the final leg was no exception. He ran out of petrol twice, being rescued by our camera crew on both occasions, and finally made it to the finish in 4th place. For Toyota, it was a fairy tale ending when, just like the Safari, they finished 1-2. In fact, both cars finished with equal penalties, making it a dead heat. The decision going to Kankkunen, who had the fastest time on the tie-deciding section. Next season, Kankkunen moves to Peugeot, so expect some fireworks. Peugeot's gain is definitely Toyota's loss. And so to the final round of the 1985 World Championship, which promised to be probably the best of the season. Making crews away from what was not only the start of the rally, but for the very first time the first special stage as well, was Timo Salonen. This innovation seemed to be very well received. It was perhaps something that could be adopted in the future. Behind him, Remo in the first of the Audi Quattro Sports, the Evolution 2 models with the wings and spoilers first seen in finish.
Wow, everybody's picking themselves up. That's some way to start. You've never seen anything like it from the end start. He has gone, that's for sure. Whether he reaches Udiki, I do not know, but it's left here like some sort of rocket.
Making its first World Championship appearance, the long-awaited four-wheel drive Lancia Delta S4 in the hands of Marco Lane. Marco has been trying to win the RAC for many years, and feels with the Delta S4 he can probably do it.
Delta S4, interestingly with both turbocharger and supercharger. Supercharger working low down, the turbocharger taking an S5.
Competing on an event he professes not to like is Walter Roll in the second of the Quattros. Walter prefers pace note events and is not too keen on competing on blind forest events like the RAC. For the British fans, though, there is really only one car to cheer for, the Metro 6R4. Much testing has been carried out in national rallies during the season, but like Lancia, this is its World Championship debut. Will it do well is the question on everyone's lips. Russell Brooks is still with his tried and tested Monte 400, in which he won the British Championship. Highest placed British driver in a two-wheel drive car is about the best he can hope for this year, however. In the second of the 205 T16s is Kalle Grundle, new recruit to the Ford team next season, and having one last drive for Peugeot in place of the still unfit Ari Vatanen. In the second of the Metros, Malcolm Wilson, who gives Tony Pond a real fright by beating him over the first 24 hours of the rally, only to retire in Wales with damaged transmission. By the time crews are into mid-Wales, however, Marco Lane has taken the lead. Already Roll is out after crashing, Mikkeler is out with a blown engine, and Wilson, of course, is out with wrecked transmission. Henry Toivonen holds second position, but is suffering from niggling fuel starvation problems, which will slow his progress. Tony Pond is delighting his many fans and holds third place. After a well-judged drive, he is confident he can improve upon this as well. Mikael Sundström is upholding Peugeot honours after first Salonen went out with a blown engine and then Grundle crashed. Sundström is fourth. Per Eklund, in his by now rather tired Quattro, which has had a hard season, is in sixth place. Ahead of him and fastest two-wheel drive car, Juha Kankkunen in the Celica. His drive for Peugeot next season should be well worth watching. Apart from Pond, the fastest British driver is Jimmy McRae in the Manta 400, just outside the top 10. As the rally heads north through Wales, Marco continues to consolidate his lead. He is driving right on the limit and is lucky to have got away with some of his more daring manoeuvres. The main problem has been spectators, who turned out in their tens and tens of thousands, causing stages to be cancelled and giving both competitors and service crews a headache as they fought through miles and miles of traffic jams. Tony Pond manages to get the Metro into second place by the end of the Welsh stages, giving heart to the thousands who have lined the route to cheer him on.
It's a hard 3 days ahead of you now. You said at the beginning of the rally, this is when it counts.
Yeah, now in rally start. That's only Sunday and yesterday is like in small rally. And now in heavy rally start.
You once told me it was your ambition to win an RAC. Is it close enough now?
Maybe. No. Still difficult. But I hope this Lancia is coming well here.
As crews head north from the Nottingham restart, Marco is determined to hang on to his lead. He's giving the Lancia team the sort of debut they dreamed of. Pond has other ideas and sets about attacking Marco's slight lead, but to no avail. He cannot narrow the gap. Henry Toyman, meanwhile, is fighting back after his time loss on the run through Wales, and he's taking time off Pond. Sundström is still in fourth place, but way off the pace of the leading trio. Trying too hard, perhaps, he goes off the road in Scotland, and suddenly there isn't a Peugeot left in the running. Per Eklund is therefore elevated to fourth, but again, like Sundström, is too far back to worry the leaders. Kankkunen is still the leading two-wheel drive car and having an absolutely superb drive to hold fifth position. Grisdale Forest in the Lake District and the final run back towards the finish in Nottingham. Russell Brooks has not enjoyed a good rally. He went off on the same bend in Wales as Walter Roll and was very lucky to get going again. Pond has by now been overtaken by Toivonen and is relegated to third place. Kankkunen is still there. He even found time to help Alan back onto the road after he went off in Scotland, for which Toyota management severely reprimanded him. McRae is in eighth place after a steady yet undramatic drive, whilst Ingvar Carlsson, not able to repeat his Acropolis run, holds ninth place in the RX-7, despite a roll in southern Scotland. Henry Toyman comes through very late, but incredibly in the lead. Alain's off when he was rescued by Kankkunen allowed Henry into first place, a tremendous climax to the rally. Marco was once again seeing the RAC rally slip from his grasp. Pond managed to lift it third overall. He felt he should have won. He didn't have the luck of the Lancias. As a delighted Henry Toivonen receives the congratulations of his teammates, we can only look forward to what promises to be a marvellous 1986 season, with teams from Peugeot, Audi, Lancia, Austin Rover and Ford all fighting for top honours.